Hello all you lovely folks out there, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to be going on a little journey back in time to the era of Impressionism, more specifically the career of Mary Cassatt, and I'm going to be doing a piece based on her work and inspired by my life, and I'll take you through the journey of studying some of her pieces, doing some practice pieces, doing some more practice pieces, and then finally, how I arrived at my final painting. You don't get to see too much, because otherwise you wouldn't stay and watch the video. Well, maybe you won't anyway, but I hope you do, and I hope you enjoy it. So, without further ado, let's hop into it. Okay, so this is my sketchbook for school, my art class, so I have some studies in here, and I'll probably do a tour later on, but this was the beginning of this project that we're going to be talking about today, so I had to find 5 artists from a big list that I liked, and I picked Mary Cassatt, Claude Monet, Lauren Harris, Auguste Renoir, perhaps, and Tom Thompson. And I really like them because they have bold colors and a lively look, and they painted nature and people, two things that I like very much. So then I had to pick one to focus on more, so I picked Mary Stevenson Cassatt because I really liked her painting of little children and their mothers. I like the wholesomeness of that. It's very intimate, if you will, and yeah, just an integral relationship of our society. So it was interesting to see how she explored that. So I did a little write-up on her biography. She was born in America and went and studied in Europe, and was like one of the only female impressionists, and was really interesting life story actually. And so then, as a continuation of this assignment, we had to do an artwork in the style of our favorite artists. So then I have to do one in the style of Mary Cassatt. And so I had to look into her technique. I studied a bunch of her paintings, and we'll see more of that on the next pages. They use a lot of bright pastel colors. There's no use of black in Impressionist color palettes, which I found interesting. They like to mix their colors on the palette, which works a lot better with oils than it would with acrylics, as oils don't dry as fast, so you could mix them much easier. They used smaller paintings, and they were doing everyday life. This was due to paint in general being produced in tubes, so they could take it out on the go and set up in plein air and paint just like some people in the shipyard like Monet did, or haystacks like he did as well. So she used oil, and I will have to work in acrylic simply because I don't have oil paints. Well, I do, I just haven't used them, so I wanted to use something I was a little more familiar with. Also, the focus of the artist's work who I was studying was important, so she focused on mothers and their children, so that's what I was going to paint. So there's the criteria of the assignment. Well, we're just gonna flip to the next page. So here I printed off 5 paintings that I really liked of hers, and then I made notes on them. So the really warm, deep shadows, and I was trying to work on skin, because skin, when I paint skin, it usually just ends up looking very red, or even this, I was studying her and it still looks, I don't know, just very red. So I was trying to get the gradient of because they use blues in the shadows, and how do you do that? I don't know. These legs, I was studying these legs there. I'm kind of happy with how they turned out, but they are a little muddy. But I really like how these paintings kind of just decompose around the edges, especially this one, the dress just couple strokes here, couple strokes there, but the detail is all really on the face, and it focuses in on there. Yeah, it's just phenomenal work. Oh my goodness. I'm not sure if she always worked from live models, but unfortunately I can't travel back in time and paint my mom and my older sister when my older sister was a baby. So I looked through some photos, and I found this one, which I thought really had a Mary Cassatt vibe, because usually the mom is not looking at the camera, and sometimes the kid is. See here, because I mean, if Mary Cassatt was painting you and your mom, you would probably look at her, especially if you're a toddler. So I did some studies just to figure out color and lighting. I came to the realization that painting babies is very hard. I also came to that realization here, and I created that monstrosity, and I was like, no, we're just gonna cover that up. After this one, I wanted to move on to one more study before we moved on to the final piece, and I will show that to you after this time lapse. Alrighty, so here's the finished little study. I was relatively happy with my mom's face, how it turned out. The baby's a little spooky still, and I noticed that her body is just much too wide. If I grab the photo, compared to the photo, I don't know, it's just not quite accurate. So I took note of that when moving into the final. Another thing, I tried shading the hair with blue to get a darker tone, and it just made it look really trashy, so I had to paint over that. But I also, as you noticed, I substituted the background, because if I was going for a more impressionistic style, I don't think they had parking lots and cars from the 90s in the 1800s, so I decided to switch it up, and I was pretty happy with this one. So this was the study, and with this one under my belt, I was ready to move on to the final piece. And after probably around 4 hours of work, here's the final piece. I am not an acrylic painter. I have done a little bit of it, but it's definitely not my strong suit, so this was a learning experience. Babies are very hard to paint. That is one thing I have learned. They look demonic under most circumstances. I'm relatively happy with how my sister looks here. She looks like a confused baby, so that's what she looks like in the photo. Here's the comparison of the photo to the final. Some of the proportions are a little off. The distance from my sister's head to my mom's head is obviously not the same. And I don't know, it's really hard to capture skin. Like, that is something I very much need to practice. My skin tones in here are obviously much too saturated. She looks a little bit like a tomato, but you know what? We're just gonna pass it off as my style and call it a day. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed seeing the process of these paintings and yeah, the research work that went in behind them. I'm relatively happy with the final product, so yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye!